Welcome everybody to Blue Collar Startup. I'm your host, Mike Nelson. Derek Foster not with us this week. Sorry, Derek. We had a little scheduling snafu there, but I am here with Mark Miller. Very excited to have you here, Mark, and I really appreciate you coming and on not a lot of notice. And you have a lot of things that we could say you are, right? Americlean, Performance Industrial, and now your new venture, which I know we're going to have you back on with Drew at some point to talk about that. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. Tell us a little bit about your story anyway.
Okay. Well, first of all, I am very glad to be here, and I'm very grateful to be here. I really appreciate the invite, and I love talking about business. I love talking about entrepreneurship. 40 years ago, I couldn't even say entrepreneur. I still can't spell it. But, basically my story is I grew up in a small town in Vermont named Randolph, and I was proud to be in the 10% of the class that made the top 90% possible.
I thought that was a great quote in your story there.
Basically it's, like a lot of people that hated school, I couldn't wait to get out. And, I got right out of high school and I got a job offer in Texas from a friend that was touring the country on his motorcycle. And he calls up and says, "Hey, I'm working for a company down here that they need a truck driver. Are you interested?" And, I said, "Yeah, I'm interested. Let's go." And he says, he puts me on hold for a minute. He gets back and he goes, "You got a 10 o'clock flight out of Burlington, Vermont." I go, "Okay, I'll be there." And so right out of high school, I started driving cross country, totally illegal because I was only 18. And I went down and hopped in a truck and brought it up to Pennsylvania. Never drove a truck before. Never drove a tractor trailer, but here I am.
That's funny.
And I did. I kind of job hopped around different things for a few years, and ended up, getting married and having my first kid, and I was still driving, and it got to the point where I was missing the family growing up.
Yeah.
I said, well, I got to come off the road and do something different. But that's all once again, back to I just barely graduated high school, no college, no intention of going to college.
Yeah.
And actually talked to my uncle, who it's funny because he lived less than 300 yards from where we're at right now.
No kidding?
In Boston, he owned Saratoga Autovisual right up the road. And he was an entrepreneur at heart. And he gave me a copy of Entrepreneur magazine. And in it, there was an ad for Americlean. It was a mobile power wash franchise where they said you can make money by washing trucks, which I knew how to do, and washing houses and pressure washing this and that. And I go, that's for me, and it's one of those life-changing moments. If he didn't give me that magazine, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, And so, we bought this Americlean franchise. We were the 17th franchise they sold. And within a year, they were up over 120.
Oh, my God.
Within 2 years, they were broke. Went out of business. And come to find out, they didn't own the copyright to the name they chose. And they got in big trouble over that.
Interesting.
And, I learned over the years, I didn't realize it then, but I realized that, after I learned a lot about business, they were excellent salespeople, just lousy managers. They did not think things through. Yeah. They didn't have a business plan. Just like I didn't have a business plan when I started. It was simply dinner,
right,
and drinks, of course. But, and that was that way for a couple of years and a few years. Just make enough money to pay the bills today. And we grew quickly, and started adding employees, and I think 86 within like 7 or 8 years we had like 40 people.
No kidding.
Working, and it was nuts. I was over my head, and it's actually when I found my first business consultant, and I met with them and said, look, I gotta do something here. I can't handle this. I'm just, it's stressful. I don't, I think I want to sell the business. I want to get out and I want to sell it. I just need to do something else. And he told me about this book and called The E-Myth.
Yeah.
And he actually gave me a copy of it. And he says, Mark, you got to read this.
That's a great book.
Yeah, you got to read this. I go, okay, I will. But how can you help me?
Right.
How can you help me? This is broke fast and I need help. And, they started to help me. I didn't read the book, but they started to help me. And I said, well, Mark, what you need to do in order to sell your company, you need to get it to run without you.
Right.
Because nobody wants to buy a company that's dependent on one person. Yeah. And I had that company.
Yeah, because then they have to become that person.
Yeah. And, no one. So we spent a couple years working on ways to help me understand about, delegating some things and whatnot. And we were working towards that. And I went to this trade show. It was probably Pressure Washers of America, this trade organization. And they had Michael Gerber there as a speaker. And go, geez, I recognize that name. Who's that guy? It turned out to be the author of The E-Myth. And I just loved listening to him. And I signed up with his program right there, and finally, and read the book. Within 3 nights, I was,
hooked.
Drinking the juice.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. And the fellow that gave that book to me, there's 2 people that told me I had to read the book, Stan Simpkins and Rob Matthews.
I know Stan.
My first so-called consultants that I ever had. And, I love them and hate them still to this day, because they were hard on me. They made me realize what I was doing and not doing and, and what I was capable of, and realizing that, hey, I'm the only person that can change that is me. And so it led to, so a few years went by and following their principles and the E-Myth principles, and I realized business got a lot better. My stress went down, and I started hiring some managers, and I didn't have to be there every single moment. And I go, wow, this is becoming easier. Why would I want to sell this business?
Right.
I got it running without me. They were right. And we had put systems in place and hired the right people, and it's more about who rather than how.
Sure.
And there's history, and decided, hey, I'm gonna run this business till I can't anymore, and provide a living for a lot of people and end up doing good things for the community. So,
which I can attest that you have too, by the way. I've seen it. You're the only person I know that was ever sending his people out to deliver flags on Flag Day. I always thought that was a really cool thing that you did. But also investing in your people. And again, I think we met when I was at Sandler, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how we met.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you, because out of everyone that we've talked to so far, and just obviously I know you pretty well, how do you, looking back, the money that you spent on consultants, coaching, any of that stuff, how do you feel about it now that you look back on it? Money well spent, sometimes a waste, sometimes not?
I spent tens of thousands of dollars working on myself.
Yep.
And it started with the E-Myth principles. Then I got into these might not be in particular order, but I started doing some work with Jack Canfield, more, and that's more on myself. And that's when I realized that, hey, I was the big part of the problem here. I needed to change. And then, that led to, several 7-day workshops I did with that group. Ended up being a team member, volunteer for helping with their assistant, in their shows and stuff, because they had like 400 or 500 people there to whack sometimes for a week. And so that was just a great experience, hung out with some great people, and, then got into, strategic coach, where every quarter I attend a workshop in Chicago with the same group of about 50 entrepreneurs. And that was just so powerful to take a break from the everyday grind, spend it in a room with 40 to 50 entrepreneurs of every sort, right from, dentist to a lawnmower to, cleaning and painting company like I had. And just, I met some powerful people, like a bunch of bank owners. I never met an owner of a bank. I mean, you don't think of who owns the banks, but this guy owned banks. And I go, wow, I never met an owner of a bank. We all know vice presidents and presidents of banks, but they're just working for the bank. And like, who owns it?
Right.
So it was interesting. And I just became a sponge for knowledge. And I just enjoyed learning so much. And I think that's important for anyone to pay attention to. And whether you start reading or listening to podcasts about your industry or about leadership, or whether it's about sales or marketing, or whether it's becoming a better painter or, whatever, better parent, better spouse, there's so much to learn. And, if you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
I'm currently geeking out on regenerative farming practices.
Okay.
I'm listening to about 3 hours a day of podcasts and audiobooks on regenerative farming practices. It's very interesting stuff, Mark.
It's so much to learn. Just pick something.
It's amazing.
The thing is too, there's a few ways to say this. There's a school of thought that you become just like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you're spending time around other entrepreneurs and other people that are positive thinkers and, really change makers in their industry or in the world, you're going to become like that. If you hang around a bunch of guys that are always talking about partying or, drinking every night or, what they're going to do next on their day off, you become like that. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Who you want to be friends with, who you want to hang out with, what material that you want to read, what you want to listen to, what do you want to watch on TV, or maybe it's nothing on TV.
Yeah,
because there's not much worth watching nowadays.
I actually don't watch television anymore.
Yeah,
I gave it up.
Very little. I quit watching the news years ago. Quit reading the local papers years ago. Yeah, it just was nothing in there about personal growth. Nothing in there at all about entrepreneurship. There, it's void of that. So, hey, I found other ways.
Well, I'm going to make sure that we get some content like that on glensfallstoday.com.
There you go.
That's our new media platform we're launching. But what's now, and I love what you said too. I can tell you that 2 experiences, and you're involved in one of them, that really had a large impact on my mindset, my career, from how I looked at things. One was when I was at Sandler, and we used to go to, we called it going to school. We used to go to school every quarter. They'd send us to Baltimore. Yeah. We'd be there for, 3 to 5 days. And like you said, you're in a room with 500 other people that are just invested in learning. And they taught us all sorts of crazy stuff that I still use to this day. And the other one was when you sent me out to Chicago to strategic coach. Yeah. What an experience that was. I'm very grateful that you did. Actually, probably the third also involves you is when you fired me. That was your claim to fame, Mark, is that you're the only person that ever fired me. That was I love to tell that story. Actually, I'm going to tell it now because it was great. It was probably the best way to fire someone I think ever. So if you're listening, I showed up to work. And Mark, I think we'd been working together. I'd been working for you for about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. I don't think I was doing the job that you had hired me to do. And so rightfully, it was time for me to go. And Mark, I walked into the conference room, and Mark slid 2 letters across the table to me, and he looks at me and goes, Mike, today's the day that we part company. I got 1 letter here says you're fired. I got 1 letter here said you quit. Sign one.
Yeah.
It was great. But I'll tell you, but getting fired, so to speak, like that was one of the best things that probably could have happened to me, especially at that time. Because I think at that point, that helped me understand that I was unemployable, which I think is a good lesson. And anyone listening, like sometimes you are just not meant to work for other people. And that was a good lesson for me. So I'm grateful for it.
Well, and it's funny because we became better friends afterwards than we did before.
Yeah.
We were doing business together before. Now we became friends.
Yeah.
And, I've thought about, since you and I parted ways, I handed over the reins to Performance Industrial to Bill Miller, my son, and his wife, Karen. And they're doing great with it. Absolutely great. But back to what you were saying, and I've realized also that I'm unemployable. But I've done a lot of thinking about, it's kind of like soul searching, about the whole history of Americlean, and we changed the name to Performance Industrial, in the last few years. And of all the people that came through Americlean as employees, and all the there's a lot of people that had come and gone. People that came and maybe they found something better, they moved on, or we had to let them go for whatever reason. And the biggest reason was it was either the right people at the wrong time or the right time at the wrong people.
Sure.
And me being one of those people.
Right.
Because I'm not saying I'm the perfect boss.
Yeah.
I'm not, I've had some history of not being the perfect person, not being a perfect boss. And so there was times where, I was in the wrong place in the wrong moment to have certain people with me.
Sure.
And I look back, man, if you could put a team together of all the people that had come and gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. And now, knowing now what I know now,
sure.
One of those, man, it'd be a killer company.
Yeah.
And we'd all be having a great time together. And, it took me a while to get that.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan for a long time, and
just winging it.
I did a lot of my hiring for labor at Sandy's. I mean, so that's the way it was back then.
Yeah.
There was no Indeed, there's no online, there's no special person to help you interview, or no culture assessments or.
For those of you listening that don't know, Sandy's was Sandy's Clam Bar in Glens Falls, New York. That was the hot spot on the weekends.
Yeah. Every night. What are you talking about?
Every night. Yeah, that's true. I forgot
it was happy hour.
It was always happy hour at Sandy's. So now you were Americlean for, how long were you Americlean for?
Oh, so you started in 86, changed the name in, I think it was 2013.
13?
Yeah.
And then what prompted the rebrand?
A few things. One is that we kind of grew out of the Americlean name and the stigmatism or the aura that had with it. A lot of people thought we were carpet cleaners or window washers. And,
right.
In fact, that our business took an industrial turn way back, and most of our work was in industrial manufacturing facilities, from real dirty manufacturing to super clean manufacturing. And, it was all industrial in nature.
Yeah.
And, a couple things. One, so there was a, confusion about the name. And there's another fact that Americlean, the reason the franchise folded is because they didn't have the copyright to the name. And a company in Montana did. And I met them years ago, and I said, will you please let me use the name? I'm just a small guy. It would just break me to change the company name. I'm just this little guy over in New York. And, I think I paid them like $600 to
be able to use it.
To be able to use the name. And I said, as I get, I started, had this company that ran without me. I'm going, if I ever want to sell this or hand over the reins to somebody,
sure,
it wouldn't be fair to sell it or hand over a name that they could potentially get in big trouble for.
Yeah.
And so there was that. And, the the whole industrial. We needed to have the word industrial in it. The performance industrial came from an analogy that I learned at Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan's outfit. He had this thing called front stage, backstage.
Yeah.
You probably heard,
I remember that,
learned
yeah.
about that. And like every company is like a performance. And like take performance industrial. My Americlean guys. They were out cleaning and painting and pressure washing and sandblasting. They were the front stage, you know.
Yeah.
You could sit and watch them, and that was the performance part. In Dan Sullivan's analogy, that was the front stage people. The backstage people are the guys and girls in the office, you know, doing the payroll, doing the marketing, doing the selling, doing all the stuff that needed to be done out of the public view, but extremely important. So, you know, I took this front stage, backstage thing into consideration when we're thinking of these new names. And all of a sudden the word performance came in. It's like, that's like a play, like a, front stage performance. And there's where that name came from.
Okay.
Thanks to some work we did with Allegory Studios, Teresa Agresta and her team helped with that.
Yeah.
My wife, Michelle, was the one that, why don't we just call it performance? It's like, why didn't you say that 3 months ago and I could have saved 30 grand?
Well, yeah, because Teresa, they have a great process for going through archetyping and all that stuff. Yeah. She first introduced me to archetyping actually. And I just think that's such a fascinating practice for branding.
Yeah. What a huge help that was.
Yeah.
You know, meeting her and learning about all that. There's another word for it I can't think, but
yeah,
great person, great company.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'd like to back up a little bit, and because I think it'd be important for listeners to hear. So, you know, obviously you're doing pressure washing, right? You're doing trucks. You're doing homes, all that's residential stuff. And then at some point you decided to make a turn and start pushing towards that industrial side, that more commercial side. A couple things that I would love to hear about in there. And one is just, what was it that made you want to turn in that direction? But the other thing is, as there's a lot of men and women out there that are doing residential and they want to make a push into a different, kind of back to the story that you wrote. That's on your website, which we'll give that in a little bit. But, in that story, you talk about hunting in new territories and sometimes you hunt in the wrong territories and sometimes you find out that you're in a great area. So, what are your thoughts on your residential and you're going to go into a new area? What was that process for you? The decision making, what made you want to do it? And, how hard was it? Or if someone was thinking about going into a new territory like that, what should they consider?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I think and I got to think back like 30 years to get that answer. But a lot of it was the residential stuff was seasonal. Pressure washing houses could only happen in the summer. Painting exteriors, obviously, only in the summer. Yeah. And it was extremely cyclical. And the industrial market is year round. And I enjoyed making contacts and the conversations that I had and learning about all the different industrial trades and all about the industrial manufacturing. And I just got a really kick out of being a support person for that. And right here in Saratoga, there's this Ball Metal. Yeah. They make cans, 9 million a day.
That's crazy.
Cans.
I had no idea that was their capacity.
Yeah. And that was 20 years ago. I have no idea what they're doing more, now. Yeah. I don't know. But 9 million cans, beer cans, soda cans, whatever, a day flew out of there. And when I say flew, I mean they were on this assembly line. They were going so fast you can't see them. Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm trying to do some quick math in my head, like how many seconds in a day, it's a lot of cans.
Crazy. Yeah. And, but just learning about that and learning what, my customers, issues were and what their problems were and how I could help with that, and, in my world of cleaning and painting. And I just, I loved growing relationships.
Yeah.
Worthwhile. I'm not lengthy, meaningful relationships and that last a long time. And, when you go watch somebody's house, okay, yeah, that's done. And,
sure.
But I think it's coming back to me. I started washing houses and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, these people have jobs. Where do they work? So I started asking everybody, so where do you work? What do you do there? And before you know it, I'm working at Finch Brine. I'm working at the cement company. I'm working at the other paper mills in town. And, before you know it, we're going, hey, we're getting calls from Saratoga and then Albany and, points further.
Yeah.
It's a nice market.
Now, interesting to know especially for the young people listening right now, that you were doing all this stuff before websites, before social media. It's not like you could put a post out there and get a bunch of work or, or get found on Google.
Yeah.
How were you? I mean, so that was your strategy. Like you got some residential business and you just talked to people and were outgoing and friendly and asked questions.
I joined every chamber of commerce in the whole region.
Yeah.
Every trade organization. I joined trade organizations that my customers belong to.
Sure.
And I'd go and support them at their trade shows and whatnot. And a lot of beating the streets, man. We'd have way back in the old days, we'd have these marathon days at the office. Everybody in the office, whether you're a bookkeeper, office manager, sales, support, scheduler, mechanic, we had phone days. And we'd all have like 100 people to call. We just call it dialing for dollars. But we'd have fun out of that. And we just call people up and go, hey, trying to, what can we do to help you or what can we do to support you?
Yeah. Sort
of thing. And, and just dial the phone.
Yeah.
Nobody does that anymore. And do social media blitz and.
Well, it's funny. So I at least once a week I have a conversation with a young, and I don't mean young age wise, but like a newer business owner. Their business might be 5 months they've had it or a year, or like I just talked to a guy the other day. He's just finished his first year. Really funny story too, because he's just finishing his first year and just met with his accountant and found out what taxes he was going to owe. And he was like, I can't believe that. I was like, oh yeah, welcome to New York State, my guy.
Yeah.
So, but at least once a week I have the conversation with someone where they're like, okay, what do I need to be doing? Do I need to be on Facebook and Instagram and, all these things? And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. You don't need to do any of that shit.
Yeah.
Like what you need to do is you need to get out in the public, talk to people, tell people who you are, what you do, and ask them if they would like to work with you. I mean, like it's that simple. And like we've talked about, you talk to 100 people, probably 2 of them are going to work with you. So you just got to keep having that conversation and you keep getting clients and do a great job.
Yep. Exactly.
It's there's no magic in marketing, right? I tell people like you can spend money and I'd love to have you. I just left a meeting with one of our clients who wanted us to do some social media posts, and I was like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm happy to take your money and do those social media posts, but it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Like there's no magic in social media right now. It's not a lead generation tool. Like there's a bunch of other things you can do, but that's not one of them. So
as a company gets older, I mean, I had this term I stole from, I think Brian Tracy, one of my mentors. And the purpose of, I think you disagreed with this years ago, but I still like it. The purpose of marketing is to make selling unnecessary.
Sure.
But that doesn't work for a startup.
No, it doesn't.
It works after you get your feet on the ground and get a foothold in the industry.
And you have clients. And
you have clients.
And you can afford marketing.
In the beginning, you need to attend something like Sandler training where I learned about, the phone marathon days and our script. And,
what's funny about that too, Mark, is, and you're 100% on, I used to hate marketing. And whenever someone would mention marketing, I'd be like, you don't need freaking marketing. You need to go out and sell. Right. And I was like, you need to pick up the phone. And what I learned is, and now I own a marketing company, which is funny, but what I learned is marketing and selling it's all part of the same process.
Right.
And that's where I was always going wrong. And is that it's not sales or marketing, it's sales and marketing. Right. And marketing is just the first step. in the get new client process, right? And it's marketing first. And that's like, now I tell people, I'm like, marketing's like the Marines. They're going to go in and prepare the ground for the infantry, right? Marketing's the Marines, and then Salesforce is your infantry, and they come in. And now that if marketing did their job, selling is almost unnecessary, right? They know who you are. They know what you do. They have trust in your brand. They have trust in your products and services. And, like to your point, if the marketing is effective, then the salesperson is really just an order taker. They're just there to sign the contract with you, So it's my mind's definitely changed on that stuff. Yeah. It's still necessary.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to, it's pretty simple, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but that's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
You really pay attention. And like, I'll use an example I've used many times. I've had this, in our business, we use a lot of lifts, like man lifts and scissor lifts and JLG lifts and boom lifts and scaffolding. And I had this one guy that worked for Albany Ladder. His name was John Casella. And whenever I called him, he would take care of me. And sometimes I could give him a notice, hey, I'm going to need this stuff in a few weeks. And sometimes I'd call him in the afternoon and say, hey, I need this lift tomorrow. And he always said, Mark, I'll make it happen.
Oh, that's where the button came from.
Yeah, exactly.
The frickin' make it happen button.
I'll make it happen. He always said that. I'll make it happen.
That's hilarious.
I didn't always ask how much or whatever. I just said, I need this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. So over the course of years, I had other, in this case, lift companies come in, solicit our work. And I go, okay, but here's what you got to do. And here's what your competitor tells me. So if you can do this like he can, well, I'll consider hiring you. And I tell him the story about John Casella. John Casella, I'll make it happen. That was his comment every time. I'll make it happen. And I knew it was going to happen. So I tell the new salesman knocking on my door, can you say that? And every one of them said, Mark, we're going to do the best we possibly can. Yeah, we're going to do the best we can, or I'll do everything in my power to make, well, sorry.
Yeah, they're not going to commit to
that doesn't work.
To that promise.
Thanks anyway, but that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So, and that's, being an entrepreneur, you have to be able to say that.
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. And one of the things we used at Americlean, and when we rebranded, we got rid of the term, but I reused it at Magnet Transport, where it's exactly as promised, the first time, on time, every time, period. And we stand by that.
Yeah.
And that's our way of living. That's a way we do business, whether it's with, talking to customers or prospects or other prospective employees. That's how we operate. And that's kind of like John Casella.
Make it happen.
And rest his soul, he passed away early. And, but there was a great salesman right there, a great person.
It's and for the listeners too, I got to tell them about the button. So when I was working for Mark, he had these buttons. If you remember the old, was it Staples had the easy button?
Yeah,
and
that was easy.
That was easy. Yeah. And so Mark had these buttons made, and when you hit them, it would say, "I'll make it happen." Was it Jacques' voice on the? It was Jacques' voice, right? Yeah, that's funny.
I'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen.
And we gave those buttons away. The button it said at the time. No, I guess it was Americlean at the time.
No, it was Performance Industrial. That was part of the rebrand, yeah.
And so the button said Performance Industrial.
Yeah.
And we'd give those out.
Yeah, it was great.
And, I've been in people's offices where they would tape that button to the door of their office.
That's funny.
And, picture this conversation being had between, two employees, or a boss and employee, or manager and employee. It's like, hey, I'd like you to do this today. And they'd go out the door and they'd slap the button. I'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen. Mark, I don't even know how we're doing on time here. Oh, we're doing great. So, what do you think along the way? What do you think the biggest challenge was that you faced?
What day?
Yeah, right.
Oh man, there's the biggest challenge was me.
Yeah.
And
I do know.
yeah, you're probably going, yeah, you're damn right. You were a challenge.
No, I mean, for me, and it's like the head game they talk about with like golf and different sports.
Yeah.
Like, your head space is like the thing that's really going to mess you up. And I know that for me personally, I think I'm definitely my biggest challenge.
Yeah. And I think, if you don't become better, you become bitter.
Yeah.
And just, it took me a long time, but I had realization that, hey, look, I was the biggest part of the problem many times. If we weren't doing what I had hoped, it wasn't my staff, it wasn't my kids, it wasn't my wife, it was me that was the problem. And, it takes a lot to see that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
I can't say I'm great at it now. Still to this day, it's not something I can do all day, every day, but,
I'm pretty good after the fact now. At least 20 minutes after the fact anyway. Not right away, but like, an hour maybe after the fact. I'm like, oh, God, that was definitely my fault. Damn it. What about, what do you think business-wise, what was the biggest mistake you ever made?
It was probably, I didn't know it at the time. It goes back to, hiring the right people at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Or the wrong people at the right time,
Yeah.
Not understanding what my needs really were and not being clear on what my expectations were. I think that was the biggest, it was an ongoing mistake.
Yeah.
I think,
For someone listening, because I'm sure that's not an isolated incident. You know what I mean? I'm sure all of us are suffering similar. So any words of wisdom as far as how to get past it, get through it, move beyond it?
Well, start reading different material, start listening to different podcasts, start watching different TV shows or not. Pay attention to what you read, what you believe in, and making sure that what you're doing is sincere and it's done for the right reasons at the right time.
I like that. What are your thoughts on either the importance or work ethic? What are your thoughts on work ethic? That's
a tough one. I mean, that's more of an opinion. There's a lot of talk about this. I'm 65 this year. I'm not 65 yet. I got 29 more days.
So you're still 64, is what
I'm still
saying.
64.
All right. Yeah.
There's, a lot of talk, among my age group, younger people nowadays, they don't realize what it was like back in the old days.
Right.
And I mean, work ethic. I mean, I've been working since the 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worked on a farm in 5th grade. All I was doing was helping with the haying, but I thought it was a big deal that, they sent the
haying's tough work.
Farmer sent his daughter down at the end of the year with a check for $20. I thought that was the biggest deal ever.
Yeah.
I made $20 haying, and it was fun because I hung out with older people. I was 5th grade, so I was only like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And, we'd go, swimming in the brook afterwards and, all that.
With the farmer's daughter?
No. I was too young for that. But, I had bought my own lawnmower when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I was mowing lawns and then, paper route, TV guide route. And, so I was an entrepreneur early, even though I didn't know it.
And a hard worker, obviously.
And you just work,
right.
And the work ethic, I think, came from driving because in order to make this before a lot of the regulations and we could kind of drive all we wanted to. And I did, because I liked making money and I needed to make money for the family. And, so working 20-hour days was common, quite common. There were some stints that, the longest I ever stayed up was for 41 hours and driving for probably 37 of that,
That's a lot of driving.
And I don't know if you call that work ethic, but it's called stupid, really. But it makes you realize that, hey, it's not, having a strong work ethic usually happens. It doesn't happen on a 9-to-5 job.
Sure.
I mean, you can have good work ethic for that 8 hours, but I guess people from old school, like I'm talking about, like I mentioned, it's like, hey, you don't have work ethic till you work 20 hours, 30 hours, straight. And, hey, they got me through, but I wouldn't suggest that to anybody. I think there's smarter ways to do things rather than just bowl through it, hour after hour.
Yeah.
But, even when I was Americlean and we'd be doing my first thing into like paper mill shutdowns, hey, we're down for 4 days. We got to do all this. This work has to get done in those 4 days. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes I didn't have any choice but to work extremely long hours during that and ask people that worked for me to do that. So we learned what their work ethic was. Was it always the safest thing? No. Was it always successful? No. I think there's a fine line, I think, as old guys, talk about the work ethic of the younger generation. Things have changed, for the better. I mean, safety-wise, for one thing. We're not allowed to work. Driving, we're not allowed to drive over 11 hours a day. That's enough driving.
Yeah. It's a good amount of driving, that's for sure.
It's a good amount of driving. And, the same with the ocean, the safety regulations, it's just wrong to ask someone to work, much more than 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was common occurrence.
As far as college goes, so, obviously there's a lot of difference in opinions as far as the importance of college versus going to a trade school or no school or any of those things. It's my belief, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but it's my belief that, college is definitely needed for a lot of things. Like I want my doctor or my dentist to go to college. I want my lawyer to have graduated law school. Yeah. But at the same time, there's just a lot of people out there that college is not right for, and they could do really well in the trades. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think,
Well, obviously I didn't go to college. Do I wish I did? A little bit. I wished I learned more about numbers, financing, number crunching, and accounting. Because I still do math in my head, and that's my limit. I mean, I do use a calculator, but I don't.
Well, you're doing better than I, because I can't do shit unless I got my phone and I use a calculator on my phone, because I cannot add anything anymore. I'm so dependent. But
I know, I was in this one of the associations I joined to meet new people was American Marketing Association. Mm-hmm. They had meetings every month, and there'd be every month dinner, luncheons. They'd have these college kids there in a marketing degree. So what do they teach in marketing school? And I didn't even know the language. I couldn't. It's like I'm going. These people don't have a clue. Is that really what they're teaching them? It's like
they don't teach them marketing. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, it's like but you take. I might go off your subject.
Yeah, no, do it.
Like culinary school.
Yeah.
All right. You can go to culinary school and learn how to be a great chef.
Yeah.
But I've done seminars at the culinary school about the importance of keeping their exhaust hoods clean and the exhaust system, which is important to save fires and save the buildings. And they don't. And if I wasn't there telling them that, they don't teach them that in culinary school.
Right.
They don't teach them anything about running a business,
right? How
to manage people, or checkbook or accounting, or all this stuff. So, and I can't picture any college where you're going to learn about entrepreneurship unless you start doing it or hang out with other entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And same goes with auto mechanic. You might be a great auto mechanic. Well, that doesn't mean that you'd be a great auto shop owner.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. And same, you mentioned doctors and dentists and lawyers. They don't teach doctors and dentists and lawyers how to run a practice.
Right.
They just teach them how to be doctors, dentists, and lawyers, and how to do things right, ethically, and all that.
Yep.
And the rest comes from School of Hard Knocks. And I don't. So you asked me a question. I don't know if I answered it.
You did. My question, and you did though. It's just do people really need college if they're going to go into the trades? I guess is the question. Or even better yet, like, is it possible? Because there's tons of people out there that are not going to go to college, and they're going to think they're going to resign themselves to having to be a low-level employee for the rest of their lives because of the story that I don't have a college degree.
Yeah.
I can't make money.
Well, poor them,
Right.
Get off it.
Yeah.
You can be successful.
You can.
Yeah, you can. And once again, it comes down to, what books are you reading? What are you listening to on the news? What are your friends doing? Mm-hmm. Are your friends just party animals and you want to party, or are your friends business owners that can help you become a business and help you? Like, say, if you have a passion to be a mechanic, that's blue collar. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, do you want to be a mechanic or do you want to own an auto shop? And if you want to own an auto shop, you hang out with people that own auto shops. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
You can learn how to be a mechanic in a trade school, whether it's BOCES. In my town, it's called Industrial Arts or something like that. Yeah. And, I took a year of drafting, which, I was able to read blueprints. Out of it. And I took a year of automotive, which I learned to fix things enough to, everybody that knows me real well knows I can't fix things, but I know how, and I know what to do, but I don't know how to do it. Sure. Maybe it's the other way around. But
yeah. I know how to break things worse than they were before in my efforts to fix things.
Yeah. And one of my sayings is, I broke it, but there's people that get paid to fix that shit.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Creating work for people.
Yeah.
What with regards to, or no, let me ask you this actually. For anyone listening, just because we're getting short on time, and I want to talk about live life wide open.
Okay.
With regards to the people listening, all 4 of them, maybe 5 of them. If you're going to tell them one thing to help, we don't have to call it advice, but you're going to tell them one thing that's going to help them on their path to being a blue collar business owner, what would you tell them?
Start hanging out with blue collar business owners.
Yeah.
Start, find out what they're reading, what they're listening to, what they're paying attention to, and what do they not do? What are the things that they don't allow in their lives to happen? Pay attention to that. Success leaves clues.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you gotta. And finding that right mix of people is you got to get out there. You got to, it's you can start networking at Sandy's. For instance,
or you can't anymore because it's closed.
No, but use that as an example. You can start networking. There's tons of stuff available online.
Yeah,
you can go to my website, my personal website at livelifewideopen.com, and there's a section there where I list all the books that are most important to me, and all the mentors that are most important to me that gained the most. If you want to learn more about that, go to that site and you can see it. It's just stuff there sitting there for free for people to use. There's a couple stories I wrote about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And, one of those, there's a story about me realizing that I was part of the problem, and how I came about fixing that or trying to. Yeah. It's still a work in progress. But,
well, everything is, right?
Because you'll become just like the people you hang around with the most, or you'll become like if you're reading junk books or dramas or whatever. Everybody needs to do stuff to have a little personal release, or just get away from it all, and maybe you bury yourself in any kind of book. But if you want to make a difference, read something that will make a difference in your life.
I appreciate that. So tell us a little. So, well, no, you told us about Live Life Wide Open.
Yeah.
Where else, if someone wants to contact you, because are you still doing any work with Score?
No, when I started the trucking company, I was driving a little bit, and I started to take Score calls when I was traveling, and I really enjoyed being a volunteer for Score.
Yeah.
And I would encourage any business owner to become a volunteer. You don't have to be retired.
Right.
The R in Score stands for retired. E is retired executives.
Yeah.
You don't have to be retired. The whole country would benefit greatly by more younger business owners being in Score as a volunteer.
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone to do that. I forgot the question. I went off on a tangent again.
No, that's okay. No, I wanted to hear about if you're still doing Score, but really in general, if anyone has any questions or they like what you're saying, they got a question for you specifically, is there a way for them to contact you?
Well, you can reach me through Live Life Wide Open. I have a personal email address. It's mark@livelifewideopen.com. The new business that I started with my stepson, Drew, a trucking company is Magnet Transport Group. You can find us online. You can get a hold of us through, our website, magnettransportgroup.com, or other social channels. My old company, my son Bill and his wife Karen would be glad to hear from you. And, I'm sure they're willing to share their things too, because,
I got to reach out to Bill. I hear he's my neighbor, or going to be my neighbor over in Greenfield. So that's exciting.
They're doing real good. I mean, it's been 3 years.
Okay. They've
doubled the revenue, doubled their headcount. Yeah. They're doing extremely well. I'm just really proud of them.
Yeah, I bet you are. That's awesome. Well, we're going to have you back on too, and have you and Drew come on and talk about Magnet.
Yeah. Yeah. Love to.
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be a good story.
That's a blue collar business.
Yeah.
Trucking.
Hell yeah, it is.
And, it's a business. Business is business.
Yeah.
I'm bringing the business side, my business knowledge to our trucking company.
Yeah.
And you can own a trucking company without a lot of knowledge. If you just want to be self-employed, buy a truck.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Or, and anybody can do that. It's just anybody with some credit. And if you don't have credit, there's other ways to get money too. But anyway.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to have you back on and cover that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
And I just want to say thanks for coming down and jumping on the show with us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will be back next week and with another show. Hopefully Derek will be with us. I'm sure he will. And until next time, blue collar business, blue collar startup.